Okay, let's see if we can't make our camera do something a little more useful than just slowly slide off screen. I'm going to delete this event listener here and the function that goes with it. And I'm going to add a little constant, which will be the zoom in amount. This is a number that we will set to, let's say, 3.3. And instead of having this event listener that slowly slides our camera off screen, I'm going to create a function called zoom2. And it will take as an argument a point that we are going to zoom into and follow. Now this basically is going to involve two things. It's going to involve scaling up this camera sprite so it looks like we're zooming in, and then moving our camera sprite somewhere so that basically the point that we are zooming into is centered on the screen. Now the scaling part is probably pretty easy. We can say this dot scale x is our zoom in amount, and this dot scale y is our zoom in amount. Figuring out exactly where to position our camera so that we're zoomed into this particular point is a little trickier. And just to show you what I'm about to do, the math is very simple, but understanding why it works is probably slightly more complicated. So just to give you an idea of what's going to happen, let's check out this fun PowerPoint. So let's say our stage is 200 by 100. That means the center point of our stage, by the way, is 100, 50. Now, if we have a camera that we're going to assume is the same size as our stage, let's say that we're not zoomed at all and our target point here is 150, 80. Now, if we want to center on this point, it just means that we want to move our camera so that this target point is in the center of our stage. That's pretty easy. We know that the center of our stage is 100, 50, and we subtract from that 150, 80, and it basically means that we want to move our camera minus 50 pixels in the x direction, minus 30 pixels in the y direction. Our camera ends up looking like this, and our target point is now centered on our stage. With me so far? Okay. Now, let's say our camera is now zoomed in 125%. Now, within our camera sprite, our target point still thinks it's at 150, 80, but of course, from our stage's point of view, this target point is at 150 times 1.25 and 80 times 1.25. So centering this means that we want to move this 150 times 1.25, 80 times 1.25 to the center of our stage. Now the center of our stage hasn't actually changed. That's still 100, 50, but we're going to subtract from that this 180 times 1.25 and 80 times 1.25, which basically gives us the results of minus 87 minus 50. Doing something like that to our scaled camera ends up looking something like this, and our target point ends up somehow magically centered onto the stage. If that didn't make sense, maybe go back and review this little section again, because it's kind of nice to understand why we're doing what we're doing. And hopefully if you understand the theory, maybe we can see it in action. So let's go back to our camera sprite, and we are going to set the x and y value of our camera in such a way that whatever point it is that we're trying to zoom into is moved towards the center of our stage. Now we're going to do that by setting the x equal to, and the first thing we want to do is figure out the center x value of our stage, and that's as simple as calculating our stage's width. And remember, you have to call stage width. If you call just stage.width here, I think that gives you something slightly different. It gives you like the width of all of the sprites that might be on stage, but not necessarily the full width of the stage itself. It's something that I always forget, and it always burns me. So anyway, we're going to take our stage width, divide it by 2, and from here we're going to subtract the x coordinate of the point that we're trying to zoom into times the zoom in amount, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the y value, except that we're going to be looking at stage height. And I suppose if we have a zoom to function, we probably need a zoom out function. This will be a lot simpler. we'll just reset our scale X to 1. We'll set our scale Y to 1. We'll set our X value to 0, and we'll set our Y value to 0. And to test this, let's just call a zoom to function from within our Puggle application, maybe from the point we've created our camera. So I'm going to zoom up here to where we've added the camera as a child sprite. And we're just going to call zoom to, and for now I'm just going to pick a point. Let's say 400, 200. Now if we run this, and well, I'm definitely zoomed into something, that's for sure. Everything's a whole lot bigger. But of course, I have no way of actually knowing if I'm zoomed into the right point. I just sort of pick this random arbitrary point for no particular reason. Maybe what we'll do next is we'll actually have this trigger when my ball gets within a few pixels of a goal peg that we'll put into our world. And then once we've done all of that, we can get to the actual part that involves Box2D, and that is slowing down time. So we'll take care of that in the next lesson or two.